You look at people who are successful in business, you look at people who are successful in life, and they basically, in my opinion, have a great ability to see a different storyline than potentially what the world wants to tell them, or what circumstances are telling them.
This is Evolve CPG, a community of purpose-driven, sustainable product brand leaders who not only believe in better, but actively pursue it. I'm your host, Gage Mitchell, and today we're discussing the concept of the path to action from the book Crucial Conversations. Our guests, Linwood Paul and Matt D'Amour, are co-founders of Subtle Distinctions, where they cultivate thoughtful leaders from the inside out.
Hey, Gage. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Linwood.
I was on a call the other day, and a business leader said out loud with some energy, "How did we get here?" And it wasn't a good thing, and I'm sure somebody out there has heard that before or asked themselves that question, how did I get here? Or why is this happening to me? Or how can I get more of that? How can I have this happen again and again and again? I want this to be my default setting. And the answer to that question has to do with, there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to do with our nervous system and staying safe and, all of that, all of those kinds of things. But it kind of all rolls down to this one thing called the path to action. And if you want to do some more work with this is out of a book entitled Crucial Conversations. And when they talk about crucial conversations, they say whenever stakes are high, opinions vary, and emotions are high, that's when you know you're in a crucial conversation. And we're in those a lot more than we think we are. So what's going on there is a path to action. And there's 4 components to it. First of all, the objective component is that we see and hear something, or we have an experience, like the year 2020, or my mother-in-law is coming over to dinner and we're sitting down, or a neighbor's building a fence on the property line, on what he considers the property line. That's an experience, plain and simple, objectively. Then it gets good. The second part of it is we tell ourselves a story about the experience. And that's based on our beliefs, on our values, on our culture, on our experience. And we tell ourselves a story. And a lot of people think story is a bad word, but what that just means is how we see it. And because of how we see it, third part comes in, which is called feelings. And we have feelings because of that story. And then, here we go, actions are taken as a result of those feelings. So that's the path to action. And every single thing, any action you take personally or professionally as a result of your interpretation of the events, which are always skewed by your opinions, beliefs, and previous ideas. And your actions are a result of the feelings that you attach to the story that you tell yourself. So shaping your story is important to making more successful and productive and perhaps different results take place. So that's the path to action in a nutshell.
One of the things that I'd like to double down, and what I personally feel is one of the most important steps in the path to action that you talked about, Linwood, was that telling yourself a story. So I just want to expand on that piece a little bit. And as it relates to telling ourselves a story, a quote that I love to share on this is that nothing in the world is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And that's by Shakespeare. And so understanding that most people in the world are having, as it relates to specific topics, the same experience. And yet people have completely different experiences of those, and they're making up different stories as it relates to how they feel about it, and they're choosing an action. So I think that when you talked about how did we get here, right, in the initial question of that person who called you, understanding what framework, how their structure of interpretation is taking in the information and what they're making of it. And you look at people who are successful in business, you look at people who are successful in life, and they basically, in my opinion, have a great ability to see a different storyline than potentially what the world wants to tell them, or what circumstances are telling them. And although they might not be completely just pure optimistic, and they're having a balance of, we'll call it pessimism in there, but they're choosing to see how what's happening for them, because I like to say that life happens for you, not to you, but what's happening for them, and creating a story in a way that supports their vitality, supports their financial well-being, supports their relationships without being delusional. And so that to me is an important part of the process, because ultimately that shapes your feelings, which is then going to basically transcend down into the body and release a whole bunch of different chemicals in the body and in the brain. And then we're going to take different actions off that, and which is going to create our reality and create our world.
Well, I love how you just brought the body in, Matt. So let's just be real quick, because you know what? We want to back this with some science. We can back this with science, straight out of neuroscience, where a quote is, with the experience is, anytime you have a thought supported by a feeling, there's a muscle change or a chemical change every single time. And that's who we are if we have a healthy nervous system. So that feeling with that thought shapes your ability to respond. And that's what people mean by acute stress responses. Oh my gosh, on one hand, I'm lifting up the bus, and on the other hand, I'm calling 911 on my phone. Why? Because there's an experience. Someone's pinned underneath the bus, and I'm the hero. And that's how it works. Your thing about telling a different story, those are the pioneers. The folks who see things and they say, what if? Remember, I don't know, maybe Gage, maybe you and Matt are too young to remember this, but there was a time when people were asking, is this thing called the internet really going to work? Is it ever going to catch on? Somebody said, what if? They told a different story, and as a result started seeing different things and looking for different things, having different feelings, taking different actions. And I'd say the answer to their question is, yeah, the internet worked.
Fortunately or unfortunately, it worked.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
According to your story.
According to your story, yeah, for sure.
Fortunately or unfortunately, according to your story. There it is again. And it's with everything, anywhere, all the time. I remember a bunch of my friends back in their day, we used to say, what was the phrase we say? It's your world, squirrel. What kind of nuts do you want to gather? And that's all we're doing. We're just running around the world, just collecting the kind of nuts we want to gather based on who said, based on what we said, based on what I said, based on what you said. And that's the whole concept of tribes too, right? My tribe. These are like-minded people who believe and who tell, or who are likely to tell the same story with an event that I am. It's really simple when you know the mechanism of the path to action. You just can look for it in yourself and look for it in other people, because it's going on all the time.
So the offering to the listeners, besides I think some of the great information that we just shared, is break down an aspect or a thought or a decision or something in your day and see if you can break down the parts to see, okay, what is it that I took in? What did I see? What did I hear? What did I tell myself based on what I saw and what I heard? Did I have any feelings that registered in my body, in my heart, in my mind based on that? And then ultimately, what was the action that I took based on that whole experience? And having people, if they can, break down those steps, or just what the most important part, what did they tell themselves based on what happened, I think can be really, really valuable for them to start to see why they do what they do.
I think one way I like to use this too is that I flip it around in terms of like helping me build more compassion. So when, let's say you're walking through a crosswalk and a car pulls up a little bit too far and almost hits you. You've got a couple ways you can react to that. You can either be angry at them and slam on their hood or something like that, or you can stop for a moment and think, well, what is it that's going on with them right now? What happened right before they got in the car or got to this intersection? Maybe they're having a really bad day and it just slipped their mind, or maybe they were distracted. I've been there before. I can understand that. So you just politely wave and move on. It's that same kind of logic that you can ask yourself, what just happened before to cause me to act this way? You can also apply that to others to build a little more compassion.
And what kind of day will you have and what kind of day will they have if you make that second choice, Gage? The next person that meets you isn't going to meet someone who says, God, almost hit me. Yeah, people need to pay attention. And the guy in the car that you made various different random acts of kindness gestures to, would also continue down his path with a vehicle that weighs 5,000 pounds in a different emotional mood. And that would be a responsibility that you have to the next person in the crosswalk, that you will have served them unknowingly. A little love here and a little love there goes a long way.
A little love goes a long way. I was going to say the same thing.
Really?
Nice, exactly. Because, if you take the other path and slam on the hood, that's going to affect that person's day or week. They're going to be thinking about that forever. But if you're kind, maybe that will also stick with them, and maybe they'll pay it forward.
So maybe the ending question is, what path are you taking, right?
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you both for another great conversation.
You bet. Thanks, Gage.
Thank you, Gage. A lot.
Thanks for listening. We're always experimenting, so please let us know if you like this shorter episode format or if you prefer longer conversations. In the meantime, if you'd like to learn more about Linwood, Matt, or their company, go to subtledistinctions.com.